Welcome everyone to another video, and in this video we're going to be taking a look at whether or not Last Resort is needed on Umbreon and Vaporeon, and this is part 1 of part 2. If this video gets enough views, likes, comments, requests for part 2, which will be Umbreon, then I'll go ahead and do it. But there's obviously a lot of topics that I can cover in the Ferocious Cup, and this topic comes up because Umbreon and Vaporeon are pretty much at the center of the Ferocious Cup. They're both very great Pokemon. They have great bulk, pretty good movesets, but the question is, do they need Last Resort to be viable? Last Resort is an opportunity to hit for neutral damage or provide additional coverage, since majority of the evolutions have mono type moves, single type moves. So we're going to be tackling part 1, which will be Vaporeon. So let's dive into Last Resort. Last Resort is a normal type move, does 90 damage, 55 energy, 1.64 DPE, which is actually pretty decent. Similar to Brave Bird, same ratios as Earth Power, Psychic, so it's a good move. Unlike Return, which Return was like a very mediocre move, Last Resort can actually be pretty game changing for some Pokemon, for a lot of Pokemon. And for the evolutions, there are Community Day moves, and that rarity of the Community Day moves that happened before PvP came out is one of the reasons why people are a little bit concerned about the Ferocious Cup, and I think that's a perfectly valid comment. But let's actually dive into the data. So when we take a look at Vaporeon versus the entire Ferocious Cup meta, I have 3 different scenarios here. A Vaporeon using Water Gun Aqua Tail, one using Water Gun Aqua Tail Last Resort, and then the last one is Water Gun Aqua Tail Hydro Pump. And you'll see in the Zero Shield scenario, no surprise here, Hydro Pump ends up winning more matches, and that makes sense because Hydro Pump is a very strong move. It is same type attack bonus, so that makes sense. In the One Shield, Aqua Tail Hydro Pump edges out Last Resort and just Aqua Tail by itself, just barely. And then the 2 Shields matchup, Aqua Tail Last Resort ends up winning this matchup. The weird thing is that when I do only Water Gun Aqua Tail, it actually wins more matches than Water Gun Aqua Tail and Hydro Pump. I'm not really sure why that occurs, but that's just what the data tells me, and that's why I like to just break down my own specific meta. These are the meta-defining Pokemon, or the meta Pokemon that I believe are relevant. I might be missing a couple. One I'm obviously missing is Vaporeon itself, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in the mirror match a little bit later on. But these are the Pokemon that I'm going to be using for the next couple slides, or the next couple images. So Vaporeon versus the restricted meta. You'll see in the 0, 1, and 2 shields, we're just comparing Aqua Tail Last Resort to Aqua Tail Hydro Pump. You'll see in the 0 shields, Hydro Pump does allow you to pick up 1 more additional win. Allows you to win the Shelgon and Delcatty matchup. The Shelgon matchup is super close. It's like barely a win. While Last Resort allows you to have a CMP tie with Vaporeon, and then as well allow you to win the Suicune matchup. In the One Shield matchup, again we see Aqua Tail Hydro Pump edge out Last Resort and pick up 1 additional win against Umbreon. But in the 2 Shield scenario is where Last Resort ultimately shines and is able to pick up the Lanoon and Vaporeon matchup, which Aqua Tail Hydro Pump cannot. But the thing is, like, when we look at Last Resort, we're in the previous image that we looked at, I assumed perfect PvP IVs, and Aqua Tail Hydro Pump one will be much closer to PvP perfect IVs than your Last Resort one, because it was a Community Day move. Most of the time they're shiny or high IV. So what I've done is I've left perfect PvP IVs for Aqua Tail Hydro Pump and then turned to default IVs for Last Resort. And you'll see the Zero Shield matchups like pretty similar. Not too many changes. Maybe 1 loss turns into a draw or something. but not really too big of a difference. But do note that when you use default IV, that means that you have a higher attack stat, and for some of the matchups, that means that you're able to hit a certain breakpoint. And one of the breakpoints is in the one shield matchup, is that water gun matchup against water gun breakpoint against Alolan Ninetales. And with the default IVs, you're able to have a tie, hence the tie image over Alolan Ninetales. But because of your lower IVs, you end up losing the Alolan Raticate matchup, which you still consistently win with Hydro Pump. In the two shield scenario, again, pretty similar. And you'll see that the two shield scenario, the average rating, which is the fourth number that I have, 567, is actually slightly higher than the PvP perfect IVs. And that's just because, again, that water gun breakpoint allows the water gun to do more damage over the long run. But remember that when I'm doing this, you might not remember, but when I'm doing these calculations, I'm assuming like ideal baiting on both sides. But what happens if no baiting occurs on both sides? You just go for whatever is the harder hitting, more energy efficient move. And we'll see that these matchups change pretty drastically. The zero shield doesn't change, obviously, because there's no baiting. But in the one shield matchup, you'll see that Water Gun Aquatail Last Resort overtakes Water Gun Aquatail Hydro Pump. And that's because when an opponent shields Hydro Pump, that's 75 energy, versus when they shield Last Resort, that's only 55 energy. So it only makes sense that if you fail the bait, that Hydro Pump is going to be more punished than Last Resort. And then you'll see that we pick up three additional matchups with Last Resort, Skunk Tank, Delcatty, and Babero, and that's with failed baits on both sides and ties Alolan Ninetales. But with Hydro Pump, you still pick up the Alolan Raticate matchup. And then the two shield matchups, it is like pretty bad for Hydro Pump, where if they fail both baits on both sides, you still pick up the Suicune, Lanoon, Minun, and Alolan Raticate matchup. But what happens worst case scenario? You fail the bait on your side, but they're able to successfully land the baits on their side. And what ends up happening is a pretty similar situation where the one and two shields end up performing much better for Last Resort than Hydro Pump. So that's something that you need to take into consideration, and that kind of leads us to our conclusion, is that Last Resort is slightly better in the two shield matchup against the field and restricted meta, but it is also less risky if you don't want to bait against your opponent. If you fail the bait, it's not as punishing as failing the bait with Hydro Pump. And then as well, when we look at the mirror for Last Resort versus Hydro Pump, you'll see that Last Resort wins in the 0 and the 2 shields, and Hydro Pump wins in the 1 shield, but only if it lands the Aquatail bait. And then as well, when you feint down the Last Resort Umbreon, Last Resort Vaporeon, I mean, you'll see that, hopefully I didn't say Umbreon too much, but you'll see that in that matchup, the Vaporeon has a full Aquatail and feints with it. So it's not necessarily a safe switch in to come in with your Aquatail Hydro Pump Vaporeon into a Last Resort Vaporeon, because you're likely to lose even in the 1 shield if you switch in. But both, don't get me wrong, Water Gun Aquatail is amazing shield pressure, has really great bulk, does a lot of really great neutral damage to the meta. But ultimately, Last Resort is a slightly less risky pick, and if you have it, then I definitely would recommend that you run it. If you don't have it, then you can run Hydro Pump and still cover some matchups, but know that there are trade-offs that are going to be occurring. So again, if you guys like this video or you want to see part 2 with Umbreon, let me know down in the comment section below. I took a little bit more detailed analysis doing this video, so I appreciate if you guys have any additional analysis on how I can break up this matchup. I'd very, very much appreciate it. So anyways, I'm going to leave it there. If you guys like this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. and I'll see everyone in the next video.